There is a man who has given away more money than most countries will ever see in a generation. He flies economy. He wore a $15 watch for years. He drove himself to meetings in a car that wouldn't turn a single head in a parking lot. And yet, by every measurable standard, he was one of the wealthiest individuals on the planet. His name is Chuck Feeney, and most people have never heard of him, which, as you're about to discover, was entirely by design. Here's the statistic that should stop you in your tracks. According to research from the Federal Reserve, the majority of Americans who display the visible markers of wealth, luxury vehicles, designer clothing, premium real estate, are carrying debt-to-income ratios that would make a financial advisor wince. Meanwhile, the genuinely wealthy, those with real, compounding generational net worth, are often indistinguishable from the people standing next to them at the grocery store. This is not a coincidence. This is a system. And today, you're going to understand exactly how that system works, why it works, and how the people operating inside of it think in ways that most of us were never taught. What you're about to experience is not a list of tips. It's not a motivational speech. It's a psychological and strategic unpacking of 15 distinct reasons why the people who have quietly accumulated real wealth have made a deliberate, conscious, and often counterintuitive decision to not look like it. By the time this video ends, you won't just understand their behavior. You'll start to question your own. Before we go further, if you've been looking for a channel that speaks about wealth creation the way serious adults think about it, without the hype, without the shortcuts, without the noise, subscribe right now. This is the first reason, and it's the one that most people miss entirely because it operates beneath the surface of everything else. Visible wealth is a performance. And like all performances, it requires a constant and exhausting investment of resources to maintain. When someone buys a luxury car to signal success, they haven't just made a purchase. They've made a commitment. A commitment to the payments, to the insurance premium, to the maintenance costs, and perhaps most importantly, to the psychological pressure of sustaining the image that vehicle was purchased to project. Ask yourself this: how many people do you know who look wealthy and actually are? And how many people do you know who you assumed were doing fine, only to later discover they were one missed paycheck from collapse? The performance of wealth is expensive. Real wealth doesn't perform. It compounds quietly in the background while no one is watching. The second reason reveals something deeper about how money actually behaves when it moves through a person's hands. Every dollar that goes toward looking wealthy is a dollar that cannot go toward being wealthy. This is not a philosophical observation. It is a mathematical one. A $35,000 car depreciates. A $35,000 investment in a well-structured index fund or income-generating asset appreciates. The person who chooses the car has traded a future asset for a present image. The person who chooses the investment has made a quiet, invisible, and deeply intelligent decision that will compound in their favor for years. Why do so few people make this choice? Because the investment doesn't make them feel seen, and the car does. The question you have to sit with is this: are you making financial decisions to build your future or to manage how others perceive your present? Here's the third reason, and it involves something behavioral economists call lifestyle creep. As income rises, spending tends to rise with it, not because people need more, but because the social pressure to reflect their new income level in their appearance and surroundings becomes almost irresistible. The person who earns $50,000 lives like someone who earns $50,000. When they begin earning $100,000, they begin to live like someone who earns $100,000. The gap between income and expenditure never widens, which means wealth never actually accumulates in meaningful quantities. The wealthy individuals who deliberately dress and live below their means have broken this pattern entirely. Their income rises. Their lifestyle stays controlled. And the gap between what they earn and what they spend becomes the engine of their wealth. Do you know what your lifestyle cost you last year? Not what you earned, what your lifestyle actually cost you. The difference between those two numbers is either building your future or consuming it. This next reason is invisible but powerful, and it has everything to do with what psychologists call identity attachment. When a person ties their sense of self-worth to their material possessions, they have made a deeply dangerous trade. They have outsourced their confidence to objects that depreciate. What happens when the car needs to be replaced? When the wardrobe goes out of fashion? When the neighborhood they moved into to feel a certain way starts to feel insufficient? The psychological cost of maintaining an image-based identity is enormous, and it is ongoing. The quietly wealthy have, often quite deliberately, detached their identity from their possessions. Their self-worth is rooted in something the market cannot touch: their knowledge, their discipline, their values, and their long-term vision. Think about the people you respect most deeply. Is it their wardrobe that earns your respect, or is it something else entirely? The fifth reason is one that most wealth discussions never touch, and it lives in the space between social relationships and financial strategy. When you display wealth visibly, you change the nature of every relationship around you. Not because people are malicious, most aren't, but because human beings respond to perceived resources in ways that are deeply hardwired. Expectations shift. Requests increase. The dynamic of reciprocity becomes skewed. The person who appears wealthy begins to attract relationships that are, consciously or not, partially transactional. The person who lives modestly builds relationships based on who they actually are, not what they appear to have. Chuck Feeney understood this. Warren Buffett understood this. Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of IKEA, who flew economy and drove an old Volvo despite building one of the most successful companies in history, understood this. Is it possible that some of the connections you're seeking would look different if you stopped using wealth as a signal? The sixth reason ties directly into how the wealthy think about time. Specifically, their own time. When your financial life is structured around maintaining an expensive lifestyle, your time is no longer fully your own. You work to sustain the image. You negotiate less because you need the income. You take opportunities that pay well rather than opportunities that align with your actual goals. Financial freedom is, at its core, freedom over time. And the people who live quietly below their means are quietly accumulating something even more valuable than money. They are accumulating the ability to choose how they spend their hours. What would you do differently if money were no longer the primary filter through which you made decisions about your time? The seventh reason is rooted in a concept that behavioral economists have studied extensively: the hedonic treadmill. Human beings adapt remarkably quickly to improvements in their circumstances. The luxury that thrilled you in year 1 becomes ordinary in year 2 and insufficient by year 3. This means that the pursuit of happiness through material acquisition is a pursuit with no finish line. The wealthy who understand this stop running the race entirely. They find satisfaction in things that don't depreciate and don't trigger the adaptation cycle. Relationships, purpose, health, mastery of craft. When you stop needing the next thing to feel good about where you are, you stop hemorrhaging money toward a psychological illusion. Ask yourself, does the version of you that exists 5 years from now genuinely need what you're currently spending money on to feel content? The eighth reason is strategic in the most deliberate sense of the word. People who don't signal wealth are harder to manipulate financially. Salespeople, advisors, vendors, and service providers frequently calibrate their approach based on perceived wealth. Someone who arrives in a luxury vehicle to a negotiation has already, before a single word is spoken, communicated that they can afford to pay a premium. Someone who arrives modestly, dressed without ostentation, holds a very different position at that table. The wealthy often use their understated appearance as a tool, not out of dishonesty, but out of a clear-eyed understanding of how financial ecosystems actually work. Are you entering negotiations and relationships with your full leverage intact, or are you signaling before you've even had the chance to speak? The ninth reason connects directly to how wealth compounds across time. Small, consistent, disciplined decisions accumulate in ways that are genuinely difficult for the human brain to intuit. A person who redirects $300 a month away from status spending and into a compounding investment vehicle over 30 years doesn't just save $300 a month. They build something exponential. The math of compounding is not linear, which is why it consistently surprises people who understand it intellectually but haven't yet felt it viscerally. The quietly wealthy understand at a felt level that every dollar redirected today is worth many more dollars in the future. This is not deprivation. This is the most sophisticated form of financial intelligence that exists. What are your small decisions compounding toward right now? Here's where the 10th reason shifts the lens toward something more sociological. In cultures saturated with consumption, choosing not to consume visibly is itself a statement of profound independence. The person who doesn't feel compelled to keep pace with social spending norms has achieved a level of psychological autonomy that most people spend their entire lives chasing without ever reaching it. This independence from social financial pressure is not just emotionally freeing. It is financially liberating in concrete, measurable ways. Every dollar saved from unnecessary social signaling is a dollar deployed toward actual freedom. The genuinely wealthy understand that conformity to social spending norms is one of the most expensive habits a person can have. How much of what you own was purchased because you genuinely wanted it? And how much was purchased because of who you wanted others to think you were? The 11th reason operates at the intersection of risk management and emotional intelligence. People who live well below their financial capacity have built an extraordinary buffer against life's inevitable disruptions. A job loss, a health crisis, an economic contraction. These events are catastrophic for those whose expenditure matches their income, and they are manageable inconveniences for those who have maintained a disciplined gap between earning and spending. The quiet lifestyle is not just aesthetically modest. It is structurally resilient. The person who has 12 months of living expenses saved and invested has a completely different relationship with risk than the person who has 12 days. Which of those people do you think makes better decisions under pressure? Which of them is able to act from a position of strength rather than desperation? The 12th reason is one that rarely gets discussed because it requires a certain level of intellectual honesty about human nature. Visible wealth attracts scrutiny. From governments, from litigants, from people with financial grievances, real or imagined. The wealthy who operate quietly are, in many respects, less visible targets. This is not paranoia. It is pattern recognition. High-profile displays of wealth have historically preceded high-profile financial and legal complications. Discretion in financial affairs is not just emotionally intelligent. It is strategically protective. Think about the people in history who lived most freely in financial terms. How many of them were on display? And how many of them were quietly building empires that the outside world never fully saw until they were already standing? The 13th reason is perhaps the one most relevant to anyone building wealth for the next generation. The habits modeled within a household become the baseline assumptions of the children raised in that household. A family that lives modestly, invests consistently, and treats money with discipline raises children who understand, at an instinctive level, that wealth is built through behavior, not display. A family that spends visibly to maintain a lifestyle image raises children who internalize consumption as the language of success. The generational stakes of this distinction are enormous. What financial habits are being absorbed by the people watching you most closely? And are those habits building towards something sustainable or consuming something irreplaceable? This next reason is invisible but powerful, and it concerns the relationship between attention and wealth. Specifically, where wealthy people direct their attention and what they protect it from. Every hour spent managing the social and logistical complexity of a high-consumption lifestyle is an hour not spent on income-generating activities, on learning, on relationship building, or on strategic thinking. The simplicity that comes from a deliberately modest lifestyle creates space. cognitive space, temporal space, emotional space. And in that space, clarity becomes possible. Decisions improve. Opportunities become visible that would otherwise be obscured by the noise of managing appearances. Is your current lifestyle creating the conditions for clear strategic thinking? Or is it generating complexity that crowds out the thinking that would actually move you forward? The 15th reason brings everything together and lands at the most fundamental truth in this entire conversation. Wealth is not a destination defined by what you own. It is a state defined by what you control: your time, your choices, your emotional response to uncertainty, your ability to act from a position of stability rather than scarcity. The people who choose not to dress like their wealth are making a statement that runs far deeper than fashion. They are declaring, through every modest and deliberate choice they make, that their security does not depend on your perception of them. They have achieved the ultimate financial goal, not the appearance of independence, but its substance. And they did not build it in a single dramatic moment. They built it through thousands of quiet, intelligent, compounding decisions made over years and decades. And to make your wealth journey effortless, we're building the Trip to Wealth Command Center, a Google Sheets system that brings your income, spending, investing, and net worth together in one place. It's your personal strategy hub, designed to expose money leaks, highlight growth opportunities, and show how small decisions compound into real wealth. Join the early access list below and secure a discount as an early supporter. Every wealth system needs a strategy. This is where yours begins. And there you have it. 15th reasons why wealthy people don't dress like it. If you found value today, I highly recommend watching my next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to leave your comment below, especially if this video made you think differently. I appreciate your support more than you know. Until next time, stay consistent, stay patient, and stay winning. See you in the next one, Money Magician.